I'm going to start with a wee thing that I was reminded of this week. That the introit for this Sunday is number 619 in the hymn book. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. I'm going to start with that before I head into my thought. It's number 619. You probably don't need to look it up. The living God, fall afresh on me. Spirit of the mold me, fill me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Over the last few weeks, I've been in conversation with colleagues locally, nationally, and in a couple of cases internationally. We are all wanting to do the things that have been removed from us, the schoolwork, the services, Sundays, and so on. And there has been a worry about how we get back to the way things were. I've had friends say that will be impossible, that the before times, as they say, way of doing things will never be again. But I'm not so sure. There have been a lot of lessons learned about new ways of communicating, that they've been discovered and used, and it's been a sharp learning curve, and that continues, and we've got to retain that experience. New possibilities have presented themselves, and we can continue to learn and grow together in that way. And yet, some things will remain the same. There is a verse in Hebrews that says, yesterday, today, forever, Jesus is the same. And it is on that rock that we stand. In the millennium symbol for the Church of Scotland, it's yesterday, today, forever, that are the words around a symbolised burning bush. There is a lot of fear around just now. I've mentioned this before. And Fear is the title of a book that I'm reading at the moment, where one of the journalists who covered the Nixon presidency demise and the Watergate affair has turned his forensic journalism on the current incumbent, who seems to enjoy the chaos that fear brings. And we have sometimes bought into that. And one of the lectionary readings for today is John 14. Let me read just the first couple of verses. You'll know the words. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God, trust also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I'm going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go ahead and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to where I am, so that you may also be where I am. You know the way and the place to where I am going. That gets the response from Thomas, who was honest enough to say, no, we don't know. And Jesus then says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. But it's good for us to remember the first words of that. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God, trust also in me. And those words are familiar. They're often used as words of reassurance at the worst of times, when a family member or a friend has died, words that are needed to give our pain and grief some context. The eyes of faith are often able to look beyond our current situation. It's not easy, and I'm not minimizing that moment of trouble, but hearing those words of reassurance from Jesus offers us hope, and hope is the counter to fear. This week sees the launch of Christian Aid Week, a time when, under normal circumstances, those little red gift envelopes would either be delivered to your door or picked up from the church. A week in the year where we are actively thinking of others around the globe who need that little bit of a leg up so that they can help others in their area. If you're minded to do so, that week can still be supported through the Christian Aid website, and a Google search will take you there. This past Friday saw the commemoration of VE Day. It's hard for a lot of us to imagine today the relief, the brief time of rejoicing as Churchill spoke of. I asked a member of my very first congregation where he was on that day, and he told me that he had woken up in some Italian's back garden, having celebrated a bit too much. And you can perhaps understand that. In my last church, I'd been invited by the high school to see if there was any Second World War memorabilia, you know the word I'm trying to say, available among the membership to help the school understand about that subject. And lo and behold, ration books appeared, medals, stories of service that surprised even the church. One man had sailed to the Mediterranean, been sunk and injured, healed, sent back through the Mediterranean. He sailed through Suez, across the Indian Ocean, and found himself at the surrender of Japan. He followed that by ferrying troops back to Canada and the USA before coming through Panama and working his way home, right round the globe, and never a peep until that exhibition revealed his story, a story that he felt wasn't that unusual. James Doohan, the Canadian actor who played Scotty in the original Star Trek series, was a Normandy vet. He lost a finger in that encounter, although you hardly see it in the show or in the films. Lots of stories that were remembered on Friday last, with relief and with thanksgiving. We have endured 7 weeks of lockdown, and amidst the fear, there has been perhaps a sense of helplessness as we are all longing to meet with family again. Maybe that's why most people were thinking on Friday of that wartime song of We'll Meet Again, and why the Queen made reference to it in her COVID-19 address to the nation. And through all of this, we have prayed. Something that we could all do. It's age unrestricted. And we have remembered Jesus' words of trust in God, trust also in me, even if those words have not come directly to mind. We have a God who is the same yesterday, today and forever, and it's on that rock that our faith is built. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, in this past week, we have taken the time to remember the service and sacrifice of our armed forces who served throughout the world during World War II. We continue to remember all those in our armed forces, whether on land, sea or in the air, and ask that they may be kept safe. We remember those who stayed at home during the world conflict and who kept watch and helped rebuild towns and cities and worked in factories to keep things going. We pray for those furloughed in our time, that they may be allowed to return to work soon, that those facing no job to return to might find employment soon. We remember our brothers and sisters across the globe who need that little extra help, a help that sometimes we have taken for granted, for health and education, that they might be able to help others where they are, for aid organizations, that they might not be forgotten in the troubles that we find ourselves in, for ourselves, that we might be with our extended families soon, that we might return to worship with thanksgiving in our hearts when it is safe to do so. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. The hymn I've chosen for today is the number 535 in the hymn book, Who Would True Valour See? Thinking about those who fought in World War II, who still fight, and just to remember that our faith is supported by a God who does not change. Who would true valour see? Let him come hither. One here will constant be, come wind, come weather. There's no no discouragement shall make them once relent their first avowed intent to be a pilgrim. Whoso beset them round with dismal stories do but themselves confound, their strength the more is. No lion can them fright, they'll with a giant fight, but they will have a right to be a pilgrim. Hobgoblin nor foul fiend can daunt their spirit. They know that at the end shall life inherit. Then fancies fly away, they'll fear not what men say. They'll labour night and day to be a pilgrim. Be well, be safe, and God bless one and all.